All right, today we're cracking open the comic toolkit for one of Shakespeare's most beloved plays, Much Ado About Nothing. And that's a really good question, right? Because this play is supposed to be a comedy, but man, it gets dangerously close to being a flat-out tragedy. So how in the world does Shakespeare pull off this brilliant balancing act? Well, we're going to break down his entire toolkit. First, we'll look at the basic formula for his comedies. Then, we'll dig into the 5-act blueprint he uses to build the story. After that, we'll compare the play's two very different love stories. And finally, we'll decode that witty language that just makes the whole thing sparkle. Let's get into it.
You know, every genre has its own set of rules, its own playbook, and Shakespearean comedy, yeah, it's no different.
So the core idea here is actually pretty simple. No matter how much chaos or confusion gets thrown around, everything's going to be okay in the end. The main characters, they live, they love, and they bring everything back into balance.
And if you look at the checklist, you'll see these are the classic ingredients. And Much Ado, it ticks every single box. I mean, from the central theme of love right down to that big celebratory dance at the end.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Much Ado pushes these limits. It uses the public shaming of Hero to create stakes that are almost tragic. It's this powerful reminder that, hey, even comedies can dive into some really serious, painful human emotions. And that just makes the final happy ending feel so much more earned, you know? Okay, so how does Shakespeare actually build this emotional roller coaster? Well, he uses a classic 5-act blueprint. This is what gives the story its perfect pace and rhythm. Think of this 5-act structure as the engine of the play. It's what drives everything forward. It guides us perfectly from that first hello in Messina through all the scheming to that absolutely heart-stopping climax at the wedding. And then, phew, it lands us safely at the joyful ending. Each act has a job to do, building tension, releasing tension, and it's all done with this incredible expert control. All right, let's get to the real heart of the play. We're not just talking about one love story here. We're talking about two, and they could not be more different, running side by side. So, on one hand, you've got Hero and Claudio. This is your conventional, almost fairy tale romance. It's love at first sight, all built on these big ideas of trust and honor. But the thing is, it's super fragile, and it just gets shattered by this really cruel, malicious deception. And then you've got Beatrice and Benedick. Their relationship is what they call a merry war. It's all about witty banter, they start out as total rivals, but ironically, it's a good-natured trick that helps them get over their fear of being vulnerable and finally admit they're perfect for each other. And here's the really brilliant part. These two plots aren't separate things, they're totally interwoven. That huge crisis in the main plot, when Hero is publicly shamed, that's the exact moment that forces Beatrice and Benedick to drop the jokes and get real, and it leads directly to them finally admitting their love. It's a masterful piece of writing. Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. What makes this play sound so unique? It all comes down to Shakespeare's masterful use of language. See, Shakespeare is constantly switching between two different forms of writing. You've got prose, which is just ordinary, everyday speech, no rhythm. And then you have verse, which is that poetic language, with the da-da-dum, heartbeat rhythm. He saves the verse for the really big moments, high emotions, formal ceremonies, that kind of thing. And get this, here's a really surprising fact for you. About 75% of Much Ado is written in prose. For a Shakespeare play, that is a huge amount. It's mostly prose. And that choice is completely deliberate. Using so much prose makes the whole play feel more grounded, more modern, almost conversational. It really puts the spotlight on the sharp, clever wit of the characters. You could even argue that their wit is their reality, so they speak in the real language of prose. They only switch to poetic verse when that reality gets completely shattered by some overwhelming emotion. And the heart of all this prose, of course, is that amazing banter. I mean, just listen to this line from Beatrice. It's a perfect example of her just completely dismissing the idea of love with that classic sharp-tongued humor. And Benedick, naturally, is right there with her, vowing he'll live and die a bachelor. But here's the thing. Their verbal sparring, it isn't just for laughs. It's a total mask for their shared fear of commitment. And you can just feel that undeniable chemistry crackling between them. Okay, Shakespeare's final tool in the kit is a big one. It's one of his absolute favorites, and it's a device that puts you, the audience, in a real position of power. So because of this,
There's this incredible tension. We're sitting there watching it all unfold, and we know the truth, while the characters on stage are making these terrible, painful mistakes because they've been lied to. It makes you feel so much for Hero, and honestly, pretty frustrated with Claudio, and it just pulls you deeper and deeper into the story.
All right, let's put all the pieces of this blueprint back together. We've looked at the comedy formula, the 5-act structure, the contrasting characters, and the clever language. So what? Why does any of this matter?
Well, when you put these 5 pieces together, you've got the comedic form being stretched to its absolute limits, that tight 5-act structure, the 2 cleverly interwoven plots, the witty prose that drives everything, and that smart use of dramatic irony. That is the recipe. That's the secret sauce to the play's enduring genius.
What Shakespeare does is build a world that is somehow both hilarious and heartbreaking at the same time. And by showing us these 2 totally different paths to love, he's showing us that a happy ending is possible no matter how it starts, whether it's with a whisper or a full-on fight.
And really, that's the question the play leaves us with, isn't it? Which one is the truer love story? Is it the idealized, perfect-on-paper romance of Hero and Claudio? Or is it the witty, combative, messy journey of Beatrice and Benedick? It's a fantastic debate, and it's one that has kept audiences talking and thinking for more than 400 years.